Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and today we're going to be doing the final episode for Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, covering episodes 5 to 8. So, without further ado, let's just get into the reason we're here. So, episode 5. So Winnie left the chat, y'all. And the thing that I love the most about this is they constantly, every time they talk about the fact that she left the group chat, they always have to focus on Whitney, whatever her last name is, has left the group chat, constantly focusing on it. Chef's kiss at the editing. Whitney is being, woe is me. I'm not going to be a part of the group with Mayci, or she's friends with Mayci, whatever. Mom talk wouldn't exist if I wasn't here. Okay. Clearly, Whitney exited the group chat to get sympathy. That's kind of everyone's thoughts and feelings. That's my thoughts and feelings. I mean, she's gonna all but say it in a little bit. Everyone is calling Mayci to ask, like, why I left, but like, no one's called me. So that's why you did it. It's because you were hoping if you leave, it gives you the attention and people are gonna give it to you. She's a toxic human. Really. So Mayci has a new business called Baby Mama. It's for like prenatals and stuff like that. And she says that the inspo for the name came because, well, when she saw a same-sex couple, she struggled to get same-sex couple out. Jesus. While getting IVF, she thought, oh, that's their baby mama. That is a great name for a business. It's not. But anyway, it's divorce party time and Whitney has shown up. This divorce party is for Layla, who's 22. But Jesse and Whitney end up talking because I think Jesse wants to kind of try to clear the air. It doesn't go well, let me tell you. And Jesse kind of says, or sorry, Whitney, I believe, says, I left the group chat and no one checked on me. Everyone's calling Mayci. Like, fucking call me. Or how about you just communicate how you're feeling with people? Instead of this, woe is me, you know? And then Mayci is coming over to talk to Dakota because Taylor was kind of hoping that Dakota and Mayci could have talked. Did I talk about Macy's spelling of her name? Mayci. Mayci? Okay. But anyway, she was kind of hoping that they could have talked about their issues that Mayci has with Dakota while doing the shoot for Baby Mama. And Macy's like, no, now's not the time. I got all this going on. So she agreed to talk to Dakota, go over the next day and talk to Dakota. So she doesn't, or she explains why she doesn't like him, kind of how she treats Taylor, or how he treats Taylor and everything. So fair. And then Taylor explains, listen, she's not ready to give in to him because she doesn't trust him. He's lied to her and she hasn't healed from those things. So to make that make sense, she basically explains the fact that he has cheated on her mind or have lied to her about hooking up with people prior to them being official. These are things that she hasn't been able to let go of. And Dakota says, but you self-sabotage, and maybe so. But again, have you met her mom? She just had a divorce. You tend to self-sabotage, protect yourself, if I rather use that term, after everything, because you just don't want to be hurt in that same way again, because you don't know if you'll survive it. So, yeah, he basically said, well, you told me in the talking stage that you can hook up and just don't tell me. Now, do I believe there's some truth in that? Potentially. Do I think things only happened during the hookup stage? No. He basically says the way that we weren't together, because again, there's this woman that we don't really see. Her name is Jenna, and she apparently may or may not have had sex with, I think may have had sex with Dakota while he was talking to Taylor, but they were not together. So that's the whole thing. And she explains, but you told me that you were hanging out with your boys and then you ended up at some girl's house having sex with her. So you're lying. And he's kind of like, Ross and Rachel, we were not together type situation. And she's like, but like you fucked a girl the day before you fucked me for the first time. Then you were fucking me all weekend. And then you fucked the next girl after me the following weekend. And I'm like, here's what I'll say. Men will be men, and men do shit like this. They will fuck this person, that person, or whatever. Honestly, we all should. I've had moments, not recently, but yeah, we've all had moments where we're like, I'm gonna fuck you, I'm gonna fuck you, I'm gonna fuck you. And you might do that one after the other, So Mayci says, there's a lot of effing going on here. And she says, like, I was coming here to hash out my problems with Dakota, but instead they're hashing out their issues with each other. So basically, she's like, why am I here again? Anyway, that's the end of episode 5. All right, so episode 6. So Whitney has apparently unfollowed everyone except for Mayci following the debacle of the girls' weekend. So Jesse is now hosting an art class with mocktails, no drinking. And I did clock that one of these mocktails are called the Pink Pussy, and interesting to say the least. Sure. It probably tastes great, I'm sure. But it's, yeah. Anyways, we're going to be drawing pussies because women empowerment and all of that. So we're going to draw basically the ideal pussy, because the reason why we're going to be doing this, clits and all, is because Jesse is actually getting something called a labiaplasty, which is basically, I guess, sewing the labia or like cutting off excess labia or something. She basically tries to explain here that because after giving birth, everything hasn't quite tightened back up after. So this is to do that. And oh, right. So Taylor is at her parents' house now, and Dakota was supposed to be there as well. But guess what, guys? He didn't, because they got into another argument. Like, the running theme is arguments. Because he wants her to basically commit, and she's just not ready to. He wants to get married. He wants to do the whole thing. And I think for him, the idea of doing this is so that they're not bringing a child into the world, as we've discussed already, out of wedlock. But she's just not ready for it. She's still not ready for it. The bottom line is she just doesn't trust him. And I think not only that, but she just, when you've been through a divorce and you feel like this relationship you're in isn't quite where it needs to be, that you don't feel comfortable jumping into something like that again and potentially having to go through a divorce again. So I definitely understand her. I do. I just don't understand then why you would get pregnant for somebody under those circumstances, but whatever, things happen. Leanne basically says to her, or let's call him basically, she does try calling him, he ignores it. And basically, her mom's like, tell him you're in labor. So when she says that, and he then calls and says, are you really in labor? That's mean. Because then he does say, you ever hear about the story of the boy who cried wolf? Eventually, I'm not going to believe you. But with that being said, Leanne basically says to both of them, get your shit together, you're about to become parents. So, like, yeah. The ladies go visit Jessie after her labiaplasty. They brought her tulips, for her tulip. She's fine. Y'all, moving on. Both Zach and Dakota are going to be joining the ladies while they go to Vegas for, I believe it was Layla's birthday, if I'm correct. So they're going to be going. And they kind of mention, oh, go figure. The two men that have control issues are going to be the men who are going to be going to Vegas. Sounds about right. And guys, when I tell you, because, oh, okay. Taylor and Dakota are going to be driving to Vegas with Jen and Zach because obviously with her being like pretty much ready to pop at this point, she obviously can't fly. So they're going to be driving 5 hours to Vegas. But guess what, guys? As Taylor is on her way to meet up with Jen and Zach, she's by herself because guess what? They got into an argument. She kicked him out of the car. You know what? It gets to a point where you're just like, you know what? Maybe we need to wrap this up. Maybe this has run its course. Maybe this isn't going to work anymore. Like, it's just, they're constantly fighting about the fact that they're not committing to each other or to his, to what he wants. Well, this doesn't make her want to commit anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. Anyways, let's take a break from them and let's move over to Whitney. Because we just don't forget about Whitney. Because she doesn't want us to. Let's remember. Whitney and Connor apparently want a homestead. They want a homestead, they want a farm. And not only does she want a homestead and want a farm, she also have these animals, blah, blah. And we get the joys of seeing a horse shit. Listen, I know animals shit, okay? We all shit. We all poop. It's fine. I just don't want to particularly see it. And I love horses. I love animals in general, but I don't particularly want to watch this animal take a dump. Anyway, so Mayci does these confessional Sunday things. Basically, you can, on her TikTok or whatever it is, you can submit anonymous confessions to her. So one day, someone decided to anonymously send in their confession, basically saying that her and Dakota accidentally had sex together before she knew that he was actually with Taylor. And Macy's kind of telling the other ladies. Macy's like, I'm afraid to tell her. She might go into labor. I don't want her to go to labor right now. But Mayci does believe that this particular person could be Jenna. Now, if you remember, I did mention it in the previous episode. Jenna was a woman who Taylor did find out about. He said that nothing happened sexually. It was just a kiss or they made out or something. And that was it. So, yeah. So we're going to be heading to Chippendales. Because, yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen some of these men before. I've definitely recognized them. Layla, poor baby Layla, is just like, what's Chippendales? And I'm like, oh, come on. Really? Come on. At 22, 23, I knew what Chippendales was. Come on. Anyway, so we get the VIP package where we get to touch the Chippendale dancers, oil them up, and get them ready for the show. I want that package. Jen is like, oh my God, like, don't make eye contact. Zach is going to lose his mind. He doesn't want me here. You know, yeah. And basically, I guess with him being there, Zach is like, or Jen, or better yet, I think it was Taylor told Dakota that they were at the Chippendales. Dakota's having his moment, but then pretty sure Dakota probably told Zach, or maybe Jen told Zach, I'm not sure. And now Zach's upset with Jen for nothing. Let me reiterate here. Chippendales was a surprise brought on by Jesse. Jesse surprised everybody at Chippendales. No one knew they were going to Chippendales. But this small ass, small dick energy guy is over here being like, you're not a real woman. You don't have any morals. You're not being a mom. I'm going to take my kids and take them somewhere else. And like, he's the things that this small man, this small dick man is telling his wife for just accidentally, truly falling into Chippendales is ridiculous. And what do you think is going to happen? She's going to fuck the Chippendale dancer. That this person who is doing a job is going to have sex with your wife. That's not a part of the job description. They're not even allowed to touch them past a certain point. They're not swinging their dicks around in people's faces. They have dick socks. You want to know how I know that? Well, I watch Jersey Shore, guys. So it's just like, this is ridiculous. Like, your small man energy needs to go elsewhere. You coming out here talking some shit, looking like Gary Busey on any day, and you want to come out here and say something? Listen, Busey, shut your mouth, okay? Like, she doesn't deserve anything that was directed at her. But yeah, that is it for episode 6. Episode 7. So Jen and Taylor are basically leaving at this point because of these small boys and their insecurities. They say protective, I say small dick energy, but anyways, Zach texts Jen all kind of the things that was already saying, you know, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, blah, blah. He's like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Just again, small dick energy. So Dakota calls Brett, and again, Demi's husband, Hada's husband, while Zach is gambling, which again, I didn't really talk about this, but Jen kind of gave Zach a limit as to how much he can gamble. Preferably don't gamble it all the way. And she has kind of said that he has a little bit, or alludes to anyway, that he has a little bit of a gambling issue, which again, gambling is frowned upon in the church. So, yeah. He says that to Brad, Dakota does, that he can only envision strippers dancing on Taylor while being 36 weeks pregnant. And again, it's like, okay, they're not gonna do that. Really, there's not. But he says like all this is that he doesn't want to lose her. He's obviously being very protective of his relationship, territorial and all that and whatever. But again, just like Shekinah, being territorial to a toxic point isn't gonna make your relationship better or worse, or but if anything's gonna make it worse. Actually, it's gonna make it worse. But anyways, back to Zach and his stupidity. Zach is just basically threatening to divorce Jen at this point over her just attending the VIP section of Chippendales, not touching them, not looking at them. The only thing she really did was take a group picture with the men and the other ladies, and then dips out. This is what he's, again, small dick energy. Really and truly. Taylor's also very miserable because Dakota's acting like a loser too. Nowhere near as bad as Zach, but still. Apparently, though, Jen, in the middle of the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, just up and leaves the house, doesn't say diddly shit to anybody, to go meet up with Zach. After he said, like, I don't love you. Again, guys, all because she went into the room with the Chippendales. He And this is kind of where he says, I'm going to take the kids and go to my parents' house and just, yeah. Zach apparently started talking shit about the other couples as well while he's at it. Because I guess she basically was trying to say, like, all the other husbands seem to be secure because guess what? They have big dick energy. They're secure and all of this. They don't seem to have as much of a problem with the ladies being with the Chippendales and everything. And his response back to that is, I don't give a shit about the other people because they're these things. He says, Jesse cheated on her first husband, with Jesse's like, the hell? No, I didn't. Where did he hear that? Because that's not true. Apparently, Mayci walks all over her husband, which is like, no. Like maybe she's a little more, I'm not gonna take your bullshit, but definitely doesn't walk all over. But anyways, and then he says, and Demi is divorced and married to a 50-year-old. Have you seen said 50-year-old? I'd be married to him too. Are you kidding? You're just jealous because he's actually cute and you look like Carrie Busey, teeth and all. So Dakota then calls Taylor and he's like, I haven't heard from Zach at all. The last time he saw him was when he was gambling. He was gambling apparently until 1:30 in the morning. He knows nothing. And then she kind of just slips out, all this because like we met some strippers. Like, oh, you met the strippers, did you? And the thing is like you can tell he's not happy about it, but he's still keeping his cool, kind of. And she's like, I said what I said. Did I said what I said? Do you have an issue with what I said? That she hangs up on him. Now, see, that is the bad bitch energy I want to see from Jen. But the problem is that Jen, I think, is so indoctrinated with the church and thinks that she needs to follow her husband to keep the peace. I feel like he has definitely done this to her before, and he feels like this is what she has to do. And it's really sad. And like they say, this is not what mom talk is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be empowering women. And here's Jen. It's sad, but here's Jen who is basically being controlled by her husband. Not very empowering, but I want them to help her. And I think they really do. So anyway, we're with Whitney now again. And Connor comes down and he's just like from the upstairs and he's like, oh my God, I just got the phone call from like with Jordan. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to, guys, because there's no way that he's fully straight. Anyway, and he basically just tells her what's going on with Chippendales and everything. And she's just like, well, I believe it because like she's not a good friend. She's saying this about Jen. So Whitney has an art. Whitney has an art to make everything about her, even though it has nothing to do with her. She literally says she believes that Jen is a horrible wife and mother because she went to the Chippendales because she's a bad friend to me. Bitch, this has nothing to do with you. Like the artistic ability, the skill to make this woman's ordeal with her husband over the Chippendales, the men with no shirts and bow ties. She is making this about the fact that no one's friends with her anymore. And she's, bitch, you alienated yourself. You left the friend group. Zoom in to Whitney leaving the group chat. Like, are you for real right now? The skill, amazing. She's incredible. She's like, I felt unsafe in that group again, my girl. You left the group though, so why are you upset that no one's a good friend to you, even though you up and dipped from the group, even though it was uncalled for. Jen finally texts the group after not hearing anything from her. People are texting her, calling her, no response. But she finally texts the group saying, everything is fine. The conversation with Zach lasted all night. It was so hard and all that. We'll get more on that later. Dakota then comes by the house completely unannounced after Mayci said no boys allowed. He tells Taylor, listen, I overreacted about the men with their no shirts and oiled up bodies and bow ties on their neck. And I overreacted about that. But for Taylor, she said it is so deep rooted than just the Chippendales of it all. And she's crying, and Macy's like, I should have told her sooner about the confession because now I'm going to have to tell her about the confession after this really tough conversation she's clearly having with Dakota. And she's going to go into labor, and she's going to go labor in the Airbnb. And I don't want her to go into labor in the Airbnb. We have a deposit. Anyway, so the ladies go out to dinner. Sans Jen initially, but they do call her, and he's like, oh yeah, like everything is fine. We're great. It's fine. It's perfect. Like we talked about it. It's great. We're great. He loves me still. It's fine. Um, it was just really needed, this conversation. Everything is great. And everyone also thinks that maybe a gun is being held against her head because how does she go from crying, just not doing well, bitch, over Zach and his fuckery to everything's fine. It's great. It's perfect. But Jesse's very triggered. And the reason Jesse's triggered here, haven't really talked about it much, is because she was in a previous relationship with a person who was very abusive to her. Not sure if I think he was an addict as well. I'm not sure. But she was in an abusive situation. I don't know there was physical abuse, but at least at the very least there was emotional and mental abuse. And verbal, I'm sure. And she's very triggered by this because she says these situations feel very similar to what she went through with her ex-husband. Zach seems to be very similar to her ex-husband. And that says a lot. But she says, like, it's always the nice ones, just like Ted Bundy. And I'm like, pardon? Because she's basically saying, well, like Ted Bundy had to have the charisma, the good looks. He was nice. He was charming, which, yes, all things are true. Like, we're not saying Zach's going to kill anybody, but, it's fine. I'm pretty sure Utah has the death penalty too, but it's fine. It's fine. Just like Ted Bundy. And I'm like, did he kill someone in Utah actually? Come to think of it. You know what? I'm not going to talk about Ted Bundy. Let's move on. They're going to go bar hopping now, but obviously Taylor cannot go bar hopping due to probation and, being 36 weeks pregnant. So Macy's going to be hanging back with her, and Michaela is also going to be hanging back as well. But Macy's like, this is a great opportunity for me to talk to Taylor about the confession. So she says she's going to be telling her about said confession, and she does, and obviously it's not, Taylor's not a happy camper, which I totally understand. But then the ladies come back from the bar. Jen shows up at the bar, and they all go, Jen shows up at the bar, and then they go over to Taylor and Mayci, and she's like, Zach knows he was wrong. He knows he was wrong. No, he doesn't know he was wrong. He's a narcissist. He is a narcissist. He's a gaslighter. These people are incapable of knowing when they are wrong. They only tell you when they're wrong in order to keep you, to make sure you stay, to make sure of all of those things go as according to plan. He needs you more than you really truly need him. And he has to self-preserve. So in order for him to self-preserve is he's going to lie to your face and tell you, I'm the wrong baby. I know that. You know what I mean? And she says, there are these narcissistic traits. So she knows his ass is a narcissist. And she said they come out in these situations every few months, so we deal with this shit. His small dick narcissistic energy every few months. But who's to say it wouldn't be like that with someone else anyway, she says. And I'm like, honey, first of all, not every man is a narcissist. Not every man is a gaslighter. Not every man is a love bomber. Not every man is this. There are good men out there, or at least men that aren't narcissists or gaslighters or love bombers or all of the above. You know, there are men that respect their women and will treat them with the respect and will actually be capable of arguing with you in a healthy way. What he did was not healthy, you know? So I felt really bad for her listening to this, kind of saying, this poor girl has convinced herself time and time again throughout this marriage, throughout the courtship with this man, prior to even having kids with him, that this is what everyone goes through. And then when the kid came along, there's just no way out at that point. She says that he's really not that bad. And I'm like, oh, okay, if this is bad, then I'm sorry, but the less bad is not much better. It couldn't be. And she said, I truly think like no one could love me more. Do you truly think that, or has he told you that? And you've come to believe his bullshit in the process. There's, it sounds like something that he would have said to you to basically say, no one will ever love you like I do. Like all I can think about in this moment, and again, I know that there's the story behind the song, but for those people who have heard the song by Janet Jackson of oh, what's the song called now? What about that, or what about that? Yeah, I know it was in my head, but it's basically the song where it just kind of outlines someone being abused and all of that, right? And I know there's a story behind that for her, but it kind of just makes me think about that of all the times you told me that no one else will love you like I do. All the times you lied to my face about different situations. The amount of times you did. And it comes to a point where you have to say to yourself, no, no, no. None of that is true. Unfortunately, though, Jen's not there yet. So someone says to her, but honey, you got married at 20. You haven't explored enough to know whether or not someone else will love you more, or that there is better men out there. She's only 24 and you got married at 20. This is basically what it comes down to it. It's like you only dated him. So how do you know whether or not someone out there is better than this guy? And then someone said, which I loved this conversation, was just like, this is the issue with the church. We're all getting married before our brains even develop. And this is something I've always said throughout the podcast. Our brains don't finish developing until we're 25. We should not be making life-changing decisions prior to that. Honestly. And again, this is coming from a person who got married at 23, 24, just shy of 24. And I mean, yeah, my brain wasn't done for developing yet. So they go on to say, but you're not trapped in this relationship because you have kids, you have options, you can co-parent. You do not need, but here's the thing. I bet you $1,000,000 if this guy has said to her, you divorced me, you're not getting these kids. I'm taking these kids and I'm going away. You'll never see them again. I guarantee you he has threatened those kids against her in order to keep her there. Or he's used those kids for us as leverage, I should say, to keep her there. She's a prisoner in her marriage, I'm telling you. It's really sad. And again, all of this was being said by Demi. And Jesse says, he's disgusting. And Demi is like, you did nothing. And that's how he acts. Like, what happens when you actually do something? Right? And Layla 22 years old, 23 now. It's like you wouldn't have forgiven him this fast if this wasn't something that's happened before. If this isn't a pattern for you, it wouldn't have been this easy. And Jesse says, I am Team Jen, but I am not Team Zach. I never want to be in the same room with him. With all of the shit he said about our marriages, which by the way isn't true, and for what we did, nothing to him for him to say any of those things. And Demi says, these are patterns that you're not adding up in your head because she's in it. She's in the middle of it. She can't see what others are seeing. But the poor thing just breaks down and starts crying because I don't think she expected the conversation to go the way that it did. But it's unfortunate. But that's the end of episode 7. Okay, so episode 8. So Taylor does believe that this person who did the confession was Jenna. And she's like, I only met her once. And with the history of it, it's kind of adding up. So she's telling her mom, what happened and everything. And that she said, I will leave him. I will leave him if, if this is her and this is the case. And her mom was like, well, I hoped you would have figured this out and before bringing another child into the world. And I'm like, God damn it, Leanne. I mean, I get it. I get it. However, she's already pregnant. There's only so much you can figure out. If he's not going to be truthful, then maybe what she should have done is just moved on if she wasn't satisfied with what, he was saying. But to say it now when she's pregnant, it's like about the pop. It's just like, Jesus. So Dakota then walks in on the conversation. Sarah's like, shut up, shut up, shut up. And Taylor tells him, so Mayci got this confession, from her confession thing. And he's like, oh, was it about me? And she says, yeah, it is. And she tells him what happened, what it said. And he says, it's not true. And he's like, Mayci would be the one to do this to me. Macy's not the one who asked for it. This thing was sent to her. Clearly, this person is trying to get the information to whomever. And Macy's just the messenger. And what is Macy supposed to do? Sit on it? If she did, Taylor would have been pissed. I think Macy did what she had to do. So he says he's fed up about always hearing that I will leave because she constantly says it, which is true, which again is toxic. But that's why I say, if she truly isn't satisfied with what he says, then she should have left. Instead of threatening that you're going to leave, it's not good. But anyway, Dakota then calls Mayci and asks, can we talk in person about the confession and stuff? So he tells her, all the problems I have, they come from you. Again, gaslighting and pushing the blame, so much gaslighting, but pushing the blame on to her. And it's just like, my guy, not all of your problems is because of Mayci. And he's like, I feel like you are trying to stir the pot, which again, my girl did not ask for it. It just came, and she did the right thing by telling Taylor. But he's like, maybe you could have just come to me and talked to me about it before going to Taylor, which again means you're trying to cover your ass, which makes me think this is most likely Jenna, and this is true. But Mayci says, I'm not loyal to you. I'm loyal to Taylor, so no. So she says, I would have been pissed if my friend didn't tell me anything fair. And he says, I'm looking for someone to blame, and I guess you're the only one I can blame. That is toxic behavior, because that just makes me think of, you want to push blame on something, and we're all guilty of it. We all want to push blame on somebody, but this isn't Macy's fault, Taylor's fault, Jenna's fault, or maybe even your fault, but the fault lies with you with the lying to Taylor about it. That's where your fault comes in, you know? But you can't blame anyone else for that. Anyway, then we're with Whitney in the infamous cake situation. Listen, y'all, I've been listening to reality gays talk about this. Right now, I think Nod is talking about this with Ellen and Joey. They haven't gone to the cake to Papa yet, but this is freaking disgusting. Okay? Let me just say, this girl is pregnant. She decides the best way to tell her family and loved ones that she's pregnant by sticking said pregnancy test that she actually peed on inside of the cake. And then says, well, the cap is on, so it's fine. You could have put a fake test in there and pulled out the real test out of your purse and been like, surprise, you know? Instead, she sticks her piss ass pregnancy test in a cake and wants to be like, I don't see the problem. Bitch, what? Ew. That's disgusting. It's disgusting. And first of all, who ruins cake? You're disgusting. But both ways, just disgusting. Anyway, then on with Jen and Zach. God sees your potential, she says. And she says, I think maybe you might need to take a year off of school. Medical school? Do you know how long medical school takes, though, ma'am? Take a year off? Take a break? Run away with us for the summer? Let's go upstate? What is going on? No. And she says she worries about her brand deals from Mom Talk if she's away because he got accepted to medical school in New York. And he says, well, guess what? I don't care. Well, you should care. Zachy boy, Carrie Busey, you should care because it's her brand deals that got you through school. It's her brand deals that would get you through medical school. She's the breadwinner, but you don't care. Okay, sounds about right. Anyway, it's launch day of Macy's Baby Mama brand. And she's kind of wondering, is Winnie going to show up? She's hoping Winnie does because, again, guys, they're friends. So she should be showing up. No one knows if she will be, but we'll see where this goes. So basically, Demi is like, listen, if she doesn't walk through those doors by the time Macy's website goes live, let's all unfollow Whitney on Instagram at the same time. And then the countdown happens. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 hits. No Whitney. The website is now launched, and everyone unfollows Whitney at the same time, and she's now officially no longer a part of the Mom Talk she wanted to be queen bee of. And then Jen leaves after that happens because Zach is sick. Poor baby. Get over yourself. Anyway, Taylor's water broke, y'all. Baby's coming. We'll get more to that after. So Michaela's birthday is now here. Obviously, Taylor's not there because she's either giving birth, baby's here now, I don't know. And we're at a roller rink, we're rollerblading, and Mayci apparently reached out to Jenna, or is going to be reaching out to Jenna on Taylor's behalf to see, by the way, girlie, was that you? Did something happen? Anyway. But y'all. When I say that Whitney walked into this party, I'm like, wait a minute. My girl walks into Michaela's birthday party, whom Michaela doesn't even give two shits about Whitney, but she didn't go to Macy's launch party, for whom Mayci does give two shits about Whitney. Do you understand that? I don't particularly understand why she did it this way, but hey, she gives Michaela her gift. Michaela could give two shits. She's like, I may have slept on it later. Who knows? Then Whitney ends up talking to Mayci, and Macy's like, why weren't you at the launch party? What's happening? I thought you would be there. And you're here. Don't know why you're here. You didn't even go to my party. And Whitney's like, I just needed some separation from everyone. And Macy's like, and including me? And she's like, yeah, including you as well. So then that's not a friend. She's only a friend when it suits her. Mayci could do so much better than having Whitney as a friend. So the ladies will kind of point out that Whitney is loving the fact that she's causing ruckus. She's talking to Mayci, but is still looking over Macy's shoulder to kind of see, oh, the ladies are kicking up fuss, and she's loving it. She's a horrible, horrible friend. Like, I'm not going to say she's necessarily a horrible person, but she's not a nice friend. Anyway, she dips, and that's kind of that. Taylor had the baby. He's cute as ever. And we end off with Jen leaving Mom Talk because Zach gets what he wants as big baby and gets to basically have her off of Mom Talk, and they're in New York where he'll be attending medical school, which, I mean, great for him, but it's just, she shouldn't have to forfeit herself for her husband. No one should have to do that. But that is the end of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, at the end of our coverage. This show is incredible. I'll be so interested to see kind of what happens. Oh, I did miss this. The last part was Mayci calling Jenna to basically find out if she was the person who did it. That's kind of where we ended off. But yeah, I can't wait to see what happens with Jenna and, where the dynamic's going to be for Taylor and Dakota. I can't wait to see what's happening with Whitney. I wonder if we're going to see Jen again. I don't know. But the show is really good. Can't wait for season 2. Good job. Great show. Anyways, that is it. I think the next thing that we'll be covering after this is, so it's going to be Perfect Match. So we have one episode of Perfect Match that's coming out on the 30th, and that's basically that. Finishing up the Perfect Match that I started months ago. That's basically it for this episode. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps. Every one of them, including, you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times2 Pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there, and you can find me there at www.realityteatimes2, all spelled out, .podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Mikkel, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.